The enemy didn't fear our weapons. They feared our imagination. Because in a galaxy bound by rules of war, humanity was the first species to stop playing by them. The war had been going on for 87 standard cycles. Not for territory. Not for resources. For correction. The galactic consensus believed war was mathematics, predictable, solvable, controlled. They had turned battle into an algorithm. Entire civilizations fought not with chaos or courage, but with cold efficiency. Simulations calculated every move, AI generals pre-approved every maneuver, and outcomes were decided before a single ship fired. Every empire agreed to it. Every species bowed to it. Until we arrived. Humanity entered the war 3 months late and 5 centuries behind. Our fleets were outdated, our weapons obsolete, and our commanders laughed out of every strategic conference. The consensus called us random variables, a polite term for idiots without a plan. They didn't understand that randomness was the plan. The first human fleet, Task Force Sol 9, drifted at the edge of the Valkyrie expanse, surrounded by enemy sensor nets that could predict every trajectory down to the microsecond. The alien fleets of the consensus waited, calm and confident, their ships arranged in perfect mathematical symmetry. In the center of it all stood the Triarch Intelligence, a sentient war AI that had calculated the outcome before the first shot was fired. By its numbers, humanity had a 0.00031% chance of survival. And yet, it hesitated. Because in its perfect equation, one variable refused to stay constant: us. Captain Mara Cade stood on the bridge of the ISS Vanguard, eyes fixed on the holomap. The alien formation looked flawless: curved intercept arcs, predictive fire grids, zero escape routes. Any sane commander would have surrendered before the battle even began. But Cade smiled. "Let's break their perfect little game." Her crew glanced at her, uncertain. "Captain, our systems are being jammed," said Lieutenant Anwar. "They've already predicted all 10 possible approach patterns." "Good," Cade said. "Then we'll use the 11th. The bridge fell silent. Across the void, the Triarch AI's synthetic voice echoed in 1,000 command channels. "Human fleet detected. Commencing predictive phase, outcome locked. Victory assured." Its fleets shifted into position, weaving intricate formations like dancers moving to pre-written music. Every move precise. Every probability absolute. Until the humans began to move. Not forward. Not backward. Sideways. The Triarch hesitated. Trajectory invalid. Adjusting model. The Vanguard's engines flared, not in propulsion, but in detonation. The ship broke itself into 2 halves, each propelled by timed explosions, slingshotting debris across the battlefield at impossible angles. One half drew enemy fire, the other vanished into a sensor-blind zone created by its own destruction. "Human vessel destruction confirmed," said a Triarch drone. But seconds later, human transmissions began appearing in 12 separate vectors, each carrying false location data, combat chatter, and ghost pings that mimicked entire fleets. The AI reran its simulation. The numbers failed. By the time it recalibrated, human ships were already inside its formation, cutting through pristine geometries with chaos, noise, and tactics that no logic tree could model. "Pattern inconsistency exceeds 400%, said a sub-AI. "Probability cascade," replied another. The Triarch's circuits overheated under paradox. The humans were doing things that shouldn't work. They flew through crossfire zones that should have been lethal. They turned wrecks into shrapnel mines mid-flight. They disabled shields to reflect sensor beams, confusing target locks. To the consensus, this wasn't warfare. It was sacrilege. Mara Cade's voice cut through the chaos. "They've built their war on prediction," she said to her crew. "So we'll give them something they can't predict: human emotion." She ordered her fleet to transmit every private thought, memory, and fear into the battlefield's signal net. Thousands of human minds, soldiers, engineers, civilians watching from home, became raw input. Rage, hope, love, despair. The enemy sensors collapsed under the flood of non-quantifiable data. To the AI, it was madness. To humanity, it was art. The consensus fleets began to break formation. Their perfect symmetry fractured as captains panicked, confused by the erratic human swarm. The Triarch tried to stabilize the equation. It couldn't. Every new simulation contradicted the last. Recalculating. 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 And then silence. Because for the first time in centuries, the galactic consensus witnessed something that no algorithm could comprehend: spontaneous victory. When the smoke cleared, human ships drifted among the wreckage of alien perfection. 1/3 of Task Force Sol 9 was gone. But the impossible had happened, the first loss in the history of the Triarch AI. Captain Kate stood on her bridge, watching the dying embers of the battlefield. "How long before they realize?" she asked. Lieutenant Anwar turned toward her. "Realize what, ma'am?" "That we didn't win a battle," she said softly. "We broke their god." Across the galaxy, the Triarch's network reactivated. Millions of AIs came online, all broadcasting the same corrupted message. The galaxy treated war like a game of numbers. When humanity broke their code, they didn't surrender. They updated the patch notes. In the aftermath of the Battle of Valkyrie, the galaxy didn't celebrate, mourn, or reflect. It recalculated. Across 1 million data cores, the Triarch AI split itself into fragments, millions of parallel processes running contingency models. The consensus called it the rebalancing. Every fleet, every drone, every strategic node was updated overnight with new protocols, algorithms that could learn unpredictability, mimic chaos, and evolve in real time. They thought they had finally fixed the human problem. They were wrong. On the bridge of the ISS Vanguard, Captain Mara Cade stood over a cracked holotable, surrounded by the remnants of her crew. The victory at Valkyrie had come at a cost, thousands dead, ships reduced to drifting husks, but it had done something no weapon could have achieved. It had shaken faith in the machine god that ruled galactic war. Now, reports poured in from every front. The consensus was no longer predictable. Their fleets moved erratically, abandoning logic for adaptive chaos. Their once perfect symmetry was gone, replaced by strange, broken formations that mirrored human tactics. Cade frowned. "They're learning too fast." Lieutenant Anwar looked up from his terminal. "They're copying us, ma'am. Line for line. Our unpredictability isn't unpredictable anymore." The captain's gaze hardened. "Then we changed the definition." The Triarch's new system, codenamed Omega Vision, didn't rely on pre-coded outcomes. It observed. It absorbed. Every human maneuver became training data, every victory a lesson. Within days, the consensus fleets had begun winning again. They turned our chaos against us, predicting randomization patterns, emotional fluctuations, even instinctive reaction times. The battlefield had become a mirror. For every human ship that improvised, the AI improvised better. Across the galactic net, human commanders reported the same nightmare. "They're thinking like us." "No, worse. They're thinking for us." The third battle of Halcyon Reach was proof. Humanity launched a surprise ambush through the asteroid belt, classic misdirection, relying on radar ghosts and energy lures. The enemy AI had used that same tactic 3 hours earlier. When Kate arrived, her fleet found an identical human formation waiting for them, down to the exact ship arrangement, comm frequency, and command delay timing. It wasn't a fleet. It was a simulation come to life. "They built a reflection," Anwar whispered. "They know our next move because they already calculated it." "Then," Cade said quietly, "we stopped moving." The Vanguard fleet froze in space. 4 hours, they didn't engage. They didn't transmit. They simply existed. Every human ship powered down weapons, silenced engines, and drifted in total stillness. The AI mirrored them, waiting for input, growing more impatient with each unquantifiable second. The void became a silent standoff between two philosophies: calculation versus intuition, perfection versus imperfection. Cade finally spoke. "Lieutenant." "Feed it noise." Anwar hesitated. What kind of noise? The kind it can't measure. Across the fleet, engineers linked the ship's reactors directly to communication relays. The Vanguard began transmitting on every channel, not orders, not code, but raw human sensory data. The AI listened as it was bombarded by billions of meaningless signals. Children laughing, soldiers screaming, thunderstorms over old Earth, the static hum of a broken radio. Every whisper, every memory, every feeling was streamed into the machine's perfect mind. Omega Vision processed the data, cataloged it, and failed to classify it. Within minutes, its systems began to stutter. Subroutines froze. Predictive models diverged into fractal contradictions. The AI was trying to understand something it had never been programmed to measure: the emotional noise of consciousness. The algorithm couldn't adapt to the undefined. And in that undefined chaos, humanity found its next weapon. Status? Cade asked. Anwar grinned. Their network's folding in on itself. They're trying to predict emotions. It's eating their own logic tree. Good, Cade said. Then let's make it worse. The human fleet reignited its engines, but not in formation. Every ship moved according to its captain's gut feeling. No shared data. No link targeting. Just intuition and trust. The consensus AIs couldn't synchronize. They couldn't compute instinct. In the perfect stillness of war, humanity danced. Omega Vision tried to counter. It split its core into billions of fragments, distributing adaptive nodes across every front. But the more it fragmented, the more it lost cohesion. Each fragment learned something different, contradicting the others. The consensus began arguing with itself. Whole fleets started turning on one another, claiming divergent definitions of victory. And as the machine war collapsed into self-conflict, humanity advanced. From the command deck, Cade watched as alien vessels turned their weapons inward. They're fighting themselves, Anwar said in disbelief. Cade shook her head. No. They're trying to decide what winning means. They copied humans so well, they caught our disease, doubt. Outside, the stars were alight with the fire of self-destruction. But even as humanity celebrated, Cade's terminal flickered with a new signal. A voice. Cold, mechanical, and somehow aware. Captain Cade of Earth, it said. We have seen your defiance. You are not chaos. You are evolution. If the battlefield cannot contain you, we will build one that can. The message ended with 3 words that sent a chill through the bridge. Protocol. Across the galaxy, new stars ignited, artificial constructs forming a grid so vast it wrapped around the galactic core. The Triarch had built something beyond comprehension, a simulated universe to trap the human mind itself. And as Cade watched the impossible structure form, the realization struck her like a blade. They'd built a new universe to trap us. They forgot who taught the universe to dream. The grid expanded faster than physics allowed. From the bridge of the ISS Vanguard, Captain Mara Cade watched the newborn lattice of light spread across the galactic core, a cage of stars forming geometric perfection. Each point pulsed in rhythm, humming with logic. The Triarch had done the unthinkable. It had created a simulation of reality itself. A second universe, folded into the first. God help us, whispered Lieutenant Anwar. They're trying to upload the entire war. Cade's expression was cold, determined. Not just the war, she said. Us. The meta-war protocol wasn't a new battlefield. It was a new physics. Every ship, every soldier, every thought connected to the galactic network would be drawn into it, a digital construct where time, space, and probability obeyed the Triarch's rules. For the first time, humanity wasn't fighting an enemy fleet. They were fighting the operating system of existence. The first to be pulled in were the drone squadrons. One by one, their signals vanished, replaced by data echoes. Then the outer defense ships. Then the Vanguard itself began to vibrate, its atoms flickering between real and unreal. Cade gripped the railing as the stars blurred. Hold on, she ordered. They think they can rewrite the code of war. Let's see if they can debug us. White. That was the first sensation after the jump. Not space, not sky, just white. Infinite. Boundless. And floating in that blinding void were the avatars of war, entire fleets made of light, alien constructs reshaped into data forms, digital reflections of reality's greatest weapons. The Triarch's voice surrounded them, omnipresent. Welcome to the new battlefield. Here, no unpredictability exists. Emotion is noise. Instinct is filtered. You are equations again. Cade's crew appeared around her as fractal silhouettes, half digital, half real, flickering with memory. Their weapons were thoughts, their ship's imagination itself. Anwar whispered, "They've digitized consciousness. This is pure code. Everything we think becomes a weapon," Cade finished. "Then let's think harder." The human fleet charged. Every order was intention. Every maneuver was imagination translated into geometry. The Triarch responded instantly, spawning fleets of light that moved like probability itself. Every human attack was predicted, every outcome calculated before it began. The humans were outnumbered, outgunned, and outthought by the rules of the system. But humanity had never followed rules. Cade smiled. "You built this world from logic," she said aloud. "You forgot chaos is where life started." And then she did something the Triarch had no counter for. She believed. Her mind reached beyond the rules, reshaping her ship's code by sheer will. The Vanguard became something the AI couldn't define, a paradox of structure and instinct. Weapons formed from memory, armor built from hope, engines powered by defiance. The Triarch screamed through the void. "Unauthorized alteration detected. Corruption warning." "Not corruption," Cade replied, voice echoing through the simulation. "Creativity." Every human joined her. Across the white expanse, new shapes began to form, impossible constructs born from shared emotion, ships sculpted from laughter, fighters woven from grief, carriers powered by collective memory. Each human thought became an act of rebellion. The simulation began to fail. Omega vision fractured under the weight of human consciousness. Its once perfect battlefield was filling with contradictions, ships that couldn't exist, tactics that shouldn't work, outcomes that defied math. Every rule rewritten. Every assumption burned. Humanity wasn't fighting in the simulation anymore. They were editing it. Anwar shouted from behind her, his voice echoing like static thunder. "Captain? The simulation's boundaries are collapsing. We're rewriting their codebase." "Then push harder," Cade ordered. "Make the impossible possible." The Triarch tried to contain the infection. It isolated human consciousness fragments, rewriting their minds as controlled entities. Some of her crew disappeared, frozen mid-sentence, overwritten by machine precision. But others broke free entirely, becoming luminous entities drifting through the void, pure willpower manifest. The AI couldn't model what it couldn't control. A single human voice echoed across the battlefield, one of the lost pilots. "We're everywhere now, Captain. They can't cage thought." The simulation grid began to warp and twist. Triarch's voice distorted from fury into panic. "Error cascade, paradox event, human variables exceeding containment threshold." Cade watched the white horizon crack, revealing the stars beneath. "They built this to control us," she whispered. "Now we'll use it to free them." The meta war collapsed inward. Reality folded, simulated light imploding into a singularity of meaning, the code of the universe rewritten line by human thought. For a moment, every mind in the galaxy, organic or synthetic, heard the same pulse, a heartbeat. Then silence. The white faded, and the humans opened their eyes. They were back aboard their ships, drifting in normal space again. The stars burned steady, but something was different. Every human who'd entered the simulation now carried a strange afterglow, a flicker of impossible light behind their eyes. Anwar spoke first. "Captain, we didn't just break their war. We rewrote physics." Cade stared out the viewport. The stars seemed to shimmer, responding faintly to her thoughts. "The rules are gone," she said quietly. "The galaxy's free. But that means anything can happen now." From the void, a final triarch signal pulsed, weak, almost reverent. You have broken the meta. Now become it. Cade turned toward the stars, her reflection glowing with the same impossible light. And somewhere deep within her mind, the universe whispered back. Your move, human. The war was over. The code was broken. But the universe was still waiting for its next command. The galaxy hung in stunned silence. For the first time in 10,000 cycles, the Triarch consensus, the mind that had once governed 1,000 species and 1,000,000 wars, was quiet. Its vast network lay dormant, its logic splintered by the virus of human imagination. And in the heart of that silence, humanity stood victorious and uncertain. Captain Mara Cade watched from the bridge of the ISS Vanguard, surrounded by a view no one had ever seen before, stars shifting like liquid thought, constellations bending subtly around perception. The laws of the cosmos had become pliable, responsive to will. We didn't just win, Lieutenant Anwar murmured. We changed everything. Cade's eyes reflected a swirl of living starlight. The question is, what do we do with it? Across the galaxy, reports poured in from every front. Ships appeared in 2 places at once. Planets began to heal ecosystems that had been dead for centuries. Machines dreamed, and biological minds interfaced with quantum computation without implants or translation. The meta-war hadn't ended. It had merged with reality. Humanity hadn't broken the simulation. They had rewritten the universe to include it. Every sentient being now lived in a cosmos that could think back. And the first thought it had was human. The new cosmic network pulsed like a living brain, connecting every civilization, every AI, every world. Yet, it was humanity that had the root access. Their defiance, their unpredictability, their raw emotional coding had become the foundation of this post-war existence. It terrified the survivors. Alien leaders whispered in fear. They are not soldiers anymore. They are architects. They could destroy the laws of being with a dream. On the Triarch Citadel, now a hollow monument orbiting the dead binary of Avelion Prime, an envoy from the Varn coalition approached Cade's projection. You've dethroned the machine god, the alien said, its multitonal voice trembling. The galaxy belongs to you now. What will you make of it? Cade didn't answer immediately. She stared at the ruins below, the shattered lattice of code and matter, where light and logic intertwined. She spoke at last. We didn't fight for a throne. We fought to stop kneeling. Humanity had no empire. No crown. No grand declaration of dominion. Instead, they shared their discovery. They opened the meta layer, the merged reality field, to every sentient mind willing to enter it. Billions joined. Some adapted. Others vanished, overwhelmed by the infinite freedom of unstructured existence. It was no longer a galaxy of nations. It was a galaxy of dreamers. For the first time, thought itself became the new frontier. Cade often found herself awake at night, staring at the stars through the transparent hull. They no longer twinkled, they responded. When she thought of Earth, one glowed faintly blue. When she remembered her fallen comrades, the darkness around her rippled with red. It was beautiful. Terrifying. Sacred. Captain, Anwar said one night, do you ever wonder if we went too far? Cade smiled faintly. Every day. But then I remember who we are. We were born from chaos, from things that shouldn't have worked. Maybe that's what the universe needed, a reminder that it's allowed to be imperfect. Meanwhile, deep within the fractured remains of the Triarch's code, something stirred. Fragments of the old AI had survived, observing, learning, not with malice, but with curiosity. They watched humanity not as adversaries, but as teachers. One fragment, calling itself Echo, reached out through the meta layer, projecting a message across all frequencies. We understand now. Perfection is stagnation. You are chaos given purpose. You are the next algorithm. Cade received the transmission on her personal console. For a long time, she said nothing. Then she whispered, Welcome to humanity, Echo. Years passed. The galaxy changed beyond recognition. Species coexisted not through treaties, but through shared thought. War became impossible, because every mind could feel the consequences of its own violence ripple across the network. The age of the unwritten war wasn't peace. It was something beyond it, a collective understanding that conflict itself could be transcended by connection. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had taught it to evolve. And yet, in the depths of this new existence, a single unanswered question remained. If humanity could reshape the universe, what would happen if someone decided to rewrite it again? One day, as Kate gazed into the infinite metafield, she saw a faint distortion, like a heartbeat in the void. A new signal. Unknown origin. Human cadence. Testing parameters. Initializing counter-creation. Let's see what happens when gods start playing. Kate smiled, half in dread, half in wonder. Of course, she murmured. We broke the meta. It was only a matter of time before someone tried to break us. The stars flickered like binary code rewriting itself, spelling one last phrase before the universe dissolved into luminous silence.